Key element for stable VoIP network. In this video, I'll try to show you some of the network elements that really affect the VoIP quality. And if you plan to deploy the VoIP PBX or the IP PBX and your network, you really need to take care of these elements. VoIP is a service that runs on a network. For example, in this image, the road is an example of the network, and car that drive on top of this road is like an example of VoIP service. On this road, if we face some obstacles or bumps, then definitely we will not be having a smooth drive. It will be uncomfortable for us. Similarly is the example of the VoIP network. If the network is not optimized for VoIP, then you come across different issues like audio quality, call drops, and some XYZ parameters. Here is one more example I'll try to show you. Imagine your network is congested. Let's say you do not have a VLAN and all your voice and data is on same plane network. This means you are putting all the traffic on a single network, on a single LAN. So that will cause delays in the VoIP. There will be a jitter in the VoIP, crackle in the audios, and will have a very bad experience. So VoIP is actually a real-time service. Imagine if I'm browsing a web page, and let's say if the web page takes 10 seconds, then I don't have an issue. But imagine if I'm talking to somebody on the phone and there's a delays of 5 seconds, and then I'll keep saying hello, hello. So something like this I'll experience. So in this video, we'll try to explore some of the elements that will help us to achieve the VoIP quality or the VoIP parameter. So first of all, we'll try to see the LAN related elements, the local area elements. The first thing and the LAN that we use are the switches. So use the modern switches. Avoid using hubs, the old networking devices, because the hubs are no longer in use. But in some situation, I have seen some students who are trying to use the hubs and then they come up with the voice quality issue. They say the voice is not clear. So the first thing, try to use the modern switches, the new latest switches. Even if you are using at home or small office or in the productions, avoid using hubs, the old networking devices. The network switch between IP PBX and your endpoint, the IP phone, should be at full duplex rather than half duplex mode. So you should configure all the ports at full duplex. The next, use segregated network. That means separate your voice and data using VLAN approach. So if you use the VLAN, the virtual LAN, and your network, then the voice will have its own network subnet and the data will have its own network and subnet. So in this case, you'll be able to have a better voice quality in your network and you will not get the delays or congestions. This is one of the VLAN standard, 802.1q VLAN standard. Those who are very much familiar in the networking side or the networking professional, they can understand this thing. Try to, if you don't have any idea on the LAN, consult some network expert or the network administrator, or when you're deploying the telephony, put these requirements to your network administrator that you need a VLAN 802.1q VLAN standard, and use the quality of service, the cause on the network switches, where you will be able to prioritize the voice traffic as compared to the data traffic. Settings, priority setting, you can use 802.1p for priority setting. For default priority, 5 is there for the voice. So you can share these details with your networks, or if you understand the networks, when you deploy the LAN for the network, for the VoIP, you should consider these LAN parameters for related to the VLAN settings and standards. If you do not afford the VLAN, in some cases it requires the manageable switch. And this manageable switch is relatively expensive as compared to non-manageable switch. Then you should deploy all the 100 Mbps or 1 gig Mbps switches in your network. That will give you more local bandwidth to your voice traffic. So in a situation, I'll repeat again, if you're not able to purchase, or there's some scenario where you are facing issue with the cost, you can use the non-manageable switch but with a higher throughput. VoIP acceptance criteria. These are the network parameters. For example, the packet loss. If you have a packet loss less than 1%, the green bar you will have a greater voice quality. And something that you take the amber or the yellow one, the caution, it should be less than 5%. And then if it is something more than packet loss more than 5%, then that is not recommendable for the VoIP. And similarly, the jitter is the variation between the delays. That is, if something you should have less than 30 milliseconds, then that is acceptable. If it's less than 60, somehow you take caution, try to fix it. If it is greater than 60, then definitely you will experience the bad voice quality or breaks in the audio you will have. And similarly is the delay. The one-way delay should be less than 50 millisecond, 80 and then 150 millisecond. If it is something more than 150, you should stop using it, and you should try to ask your network administrator or the network consultant who are responsible for the network. Ask them to fix these things for you. And similarly, the ping response, the both ways values are there. It should be less than 100 milliseconds, or the acceptable should be less than 160 millisecond. If it's something more than 300 millisecond, then you should not use it. This should be between IPPBX server and the phone network. So wherever your IPPBX is based on, imagine if you're using in the cloud or you're using a different subnet and different networks, then these parameters, the packet loss, the jitters and the delays, you should take into the considerations. The phone network where you're deploying the IP phones, so these parameters are then checked based on between the IPPBX and the phone network. Wide area network elements. So one of the key elements for the wide area network, you should have a similar optimized network. Along with the optimized network, if you are using the remote branch, remote extensions, then you should use for the branch office or the remote user, use the best bandwidth optimized audio codecs like Opus or G729 are recommended. Now these two kind of codecs, they use less bandwidth. In a situation where you have a multiple offices, branch offices, and you are planning to connect the branch office to the headquarter, to the head office, and then you are trying to register the extension from branch to the head office, then you are using a WAN bandwidth. Now the WAN bandwidth totally depend on the provider who give you the connectivity. It might be E1 or the T1 or some VPN, the connectivity. So you need to use, if you are facing the delays and the issues, then you should try to use, because when we are on the LAN, then we don't have any issue of the bandwidth, because it's at least by default it's 100 Mbps. But when we move out from the LAN, we have a WAN, and then WAN we consider the bandwidth issue. Codecs is something that can help you to utilize or consume a less bandwidth with better audio quality. Here is a chart. Bitrate 40 kbps per channel. You can see the Opus and G729 is on top, and the other codecs SPX, G722, G729.1 and others, etc. So in case of WAN, try to use the G729 or the Opus codec for your IPPBX.